Hello and welcome back to the Beyond the Seams podcast. I'm Elizabeth Agnew, founder of Eternal Goddess, and thank you for joining me. You may have noticed that I haven't uploaded a podcast in quite a while. I took a little bit of a sabbatical, but we are back, and we are back better than ever. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to Sherene Headley, who is the founder, designer, owner of Mokkah Shoes. Mokkah Shoes is a shoe brand, obviously as the name would suggest, creating shoes designed for larger sizes. Look, I don't know about you. I personally have small to average size feet. I'm a very small person. I'm 5'1", so I've never quite questioned whether women sizes 8 and above can find shoes. It would turn out it's quite difficult. Sherene is doing an amazing job at making these shoes and, more importantly, making women feel empowered in their larger sizes that as a society we rarely acknowledge and might even look down upon. So I do hope that you will find this conversation insightful and educational, and perhaps it's a good time to start asking your friends and family what size their feet are, because it would turn out no one really knows what size feet people are. Possibly an odd thing to start conversations with, hello, how big are your feet? But, you know, it's insightful. If you'd like to keep up to date with more from Eternal Goddess and the podcast, please make sure that you are following us on social media. Hello, Sherene. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about your company, Mokkah Shoes, which I'm constantly fascinated by because this is a side of the fashion industry, specifically the shoe industry, that I've never once thought about. I'm one of those people. I have small feet. I'm a very small person in general. I'm 5'1". I've got tiny feet. Aww. If anything, I've got the opposite problem. My feet fall out of every shoe ever made. So admittedly, I've not really thought about shoes that come in larger sizes, but this is what you do, and it's amazing, and you're bridging a gap in the market that I'm sure really needs filling. So to start, can you explain briefly, or not so briefly, about Mokkah Shoes and what it is that you sell?
Thank you for having me, firstly.
You're very welcome.
It's been a pleasure to be on here. Mokkah is a footwear brand. We provide premium quality shoes for women who wear larger sizes, so that's from a size 8 to a size 12. I've always, as a little background to myself, I've always loved shoes, like from when I was very young. And when I was young, I used to have them in abundance. I used to have loads. Whenever I'd go to church with my mom, I'd have a bag with my matching shoes and stuff like that. And then that's just how it was. So I always had this love for shoes. But as mad as this might sound to you, I remember when I was in year 2, I was actually wearing a size 6. Okay. And I actually, well, at the time, I thought it was great. I used to swap shoes with my teacher. And I used to be like, oh, wow, walking around the playground in these heels, and she'd have my shoes on. And I just thought it was amazing. I didn't think anything was wrong about that at all. And then once I got to, and I remember actually specifically, it was one particular pair of shoes. My mum had got me some black platforms. And I remember when we was in class, the man said, oh, this is the largest size until you have to go to the women's or to a different, or until we can't make these shoes or whatever. And I remember hearing that, and I was so conscious about that. So when the shoes got too small for me, I used to cram my feet in. And so that my mum wouldn't know that I'd actually outgrown the shoes. Between, I guess, year 2 and year 7, I started to realize that my feet were actually a lot bigger than my friends, because shoe shopping was no longer fun with my mom. It was more like, oh, they don't have my size, or they don't have my size. So when I was actually in year 7, so 12 years old, and we started school, and the teacher had like a little icebreaker question, and she was like, she's trying to get us all to know each other. So she was like, oh, get in order of who's the oldest, and then she's like, get in order of who's got the smallest and the biggest feet. And that was the worst thing she ever did. I was so like, oh my gosh. And then obviously I got to the end of the queue, and it was comforting at that time because there was one other girl in my class that wore the same size shoe as me. But throughout school, me and my mum had this constant battle of finding shoes because my feet were growing. So I left school at a size 10, and I was like, can't find any shoes. And all the shoes that were available, they were for a much older demographic. It was like very bland. So either just your basic flat, and there wasn't any other femininity to the shoes. And also the quality was lagging. I was in sixth form and I was like, I wish that I actually created a footwear brand for women of big feet. I was like, this is just ridiculous. I'm tired of shying away over my shoe size and stuff like that. At the same time I had that idea, the same time I dismissed it because I thought to myself, oh no, Sherene, you didn't study you didn't do textiles, for example. So I just didn't even pursue it. I put it to bed until it came back later on in life. And then I realised I didn't actually have to have gone to school. That's how it all came about, through my own sort of discomfort and embarrassment that I felt having big feet and not feeling like I fit in women's clothes or women's fashion, should I say.
They did do that in school, and they probably still do it when they ice break and they say stand in line of height, and I was always at the bottom, and stand in size of feet. And
yeah.
I always felt sorry for the girls. There were a couple in my year. There was one girl in particular who was very tall for her age when we were like 11 or 12, and I always felt she's kind of stood on her own. I wanted to segue into talking about your experience in the industry, your past in the industry. You mentioned that you have worked in the industry. So what is your past with fashion?
So my experience in fashion is literally just when I was 16, my very first job. So I was a sales assistant at Dorothy Perkins, and during that time Dorothy Perkins just went up to a size 8. So they did have a size 9, but it was like one random one that you might get in the shop. But even then, by that time, as I said, I was already a size 10, so there's no way I could squeeze my foot into them. So what I used to do is, when I was working there, is I actually used to buy, whenever it was my friend's birthdays and I saw shoes that I thought were amazing that would suit them, I'd buy them shoes and kind of like live through them with the shoes that I purchased. But that's literally it. So it's interesting because I think, to be honest, like, I kind of proved it to myself, but also for anyone that is listening or watching that doesn't have an experience in fashion but has the desire, it is so possible to create your own business and to be good at it and acquire the knowledge it is that you need. Mokkah, we went live, we started trading in 2021, but I was researching and upskilling and stuff for about, say, 3 years before that, and I could have possibly launched before, but I had a bit of like imposter syndrome. I was a bit scared about coming out with my shoe size. I was a bit like, because I realized that if I'm stepping into this community, I've got to be confident myself. And if I wasn't confident, how am I supposed to tell everybody else to be confident? So it took me a while to force that out of myself, and which I did do through a crowdfund.
Speaking about working a retail job, this is what I was really interested in. I wanted to ask you. Firstly, do you know what the average foot size for women is in the UK? Because the average dress size is a 16, but you never see any information about what the average foot size is.
Well, the average back in the day used to be a size 4. So this was, that's
small.
Yeah, I know. I know. So you can only imagine what the dress size would be.
Yeah.
But now it's about between I would probably say it's a 6 now, but it's between a 5 and a 6 for women. So when you go into these shops, that's what the sizing will be. And the samples that you would get, so with a normal manufacturer, if I wanted a sample of like one of my shoes, they would normally first make it up, and it's a size 4.
I just didn't realise it was to a 5 to a 6. I kind of thought that it would have been 6 to 7, but maybe that's just the people in my life have larger feet.
To be honest with you, I feel like if they actually did their research properly, they would find that it's actually bigger than that. Because personally, like for example, when I was doing my crowdfund, it was through lockdown, so it was a 5-week campaign. Obviously, we're all at home, so it was all through social media. And one of the things I was doing to drum up the awareness and stuff like that, I actually asked on my stories, do you know anybody who wears a size 8 and above in shoes? And a lot of people that know me personally said no, they don't know anyone. And it's because obviously we don't talk about it. No, and we don't know. It's not really a conversation you have, It's what size
how
are you?
big are your feet?
Yeah, it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So it's like, weird. And so when we say this, so they said no. So I'm like, well, that's interesting because I am, and probably more people are, but you just assumed, maybe in our own heads, unless you put on a shoe that looks very small or very big, no one says anything.
The industry definitely needs to do some better checking on averages in general.
Yes,
It's always a little bit iffy. Going back once again to your time in retail, and I mean, you might not remember, but do you remember ever having people come into the store and asking specifically if you had larger sizes available in shoes?
Yeah, and at that
So
time,
it was common.
so it was common, and you would have people say, "Oh, have you got these in a size 9?" And you know that when you did delivery, for example, and you have all these tote boxes of shoes, you could have about, no exaggeration, you can have about 10 totes boxes of shoes, and there's only one size 9. There's literally just one. So that goes out, and before you know it, it's gone. And then somebody else will come in and say, "Oh, do you have these in a size 9?" And you know that one pair that you did have is already gone. So it was difficult, obviously, for those people. But at that time, I had to just say, I had to just name another. At the time, I only knew of only one other retail store that did it. And with that, you might realize, well, not even you might realize, you straight away, they cater to 2 different demographics of women. So if you do go to that store, you're not going to fall in love like you might have done when you saw these ones. Knowing that you can't just find a pair of heels, for example, if that's what you want to wear, or a nice pretty pair of flats, is really difficult. And then going into women's shoe stores and knowing they do not cater to you when you're a woman is very tough as well, because then you, for example, myself, I started to question whether I was as girly as I thought I was. I was starting to think, oh, maybe I'm not really interested, maybe this is my new sense of style. But then you realize, well, no, I actually really do like that. I just don't have it. I really do like that, but, I can't find it. And that is very difficult for young women, especially. Yeah. It doesn't help with trying to accept yourself at all.
No, not at all, which is why what you're doing is so amazing. So flash forward, you've got Mokkah Shoes, which is an amazing brand.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you about your design process because, and I'm actually slightly annoyed that I can't fit in your shoes because I love your heel design. Talk me through your heel design, those black heels that you have with the strap, and they're so beautiful.
Oh,
I want
thank
them.
You.
What is your design process? Because actually your shoes they look, again, quote unquote, normal, whatever that is. They look like, your bog standard shoes.
Yes. Well,
but beautiful.
This is no, I understand. I understand. Thank you.
You know what I mean?
I understand. Thank you. Okay, so when it comes to shoes, I kind of thought to myself, what shoes do I wish that I had? For example, my shoe, we've only, as I said to you earlier, we've only been going for 18 months. So my shoe collection is nowhere near what it's going to be as we grow, because I'm going to be creating all these different shoes. So what I wanted to do initially was I first started with an all black collection. So at the beginning, it was going to be 5 different styles, and the aim was for each pair to suit a different occasion. So I thought for that particular heel design, which is Sabrina, I named the shoes that I did end up releasing after some of the women that pre-ordered through my crowdfund. So that particular one was called Sabrina, named after one of the crowdfunders. And she, and with that shoe, I looked at, because as I said, I don't have a background. So I was looking at different types of shoes that I liked, and then I mashed them together. So I was like, okay, well, for myself, maybe for selfish reasons, I don't really like open-toe shoes because I don't really show my toes. I will create an open-toe shoe though, but for the first one, I was like, I really want a heeled shoe that I can wear if I want to go out. So I was like, okay, the original shoe design I saw was like a leather shoe. It had an asymmetric strap, but it was open-toe. So so with some of the other pieces of different shoes that I kind of pulled together, I worked with a footwear designer, and I said, I like this part and this part and this part of these all 4 different shoes because I can't draw. So I was like, can you put them together and create this image that I've got in my head? And that's what it is that she was able to create. I mean, some of the other ones, like your classic loafer, Rosie, is something I've always wanted. I've never had like a great pair of loafers that I I would feel smart in, or to be able to go to work or to wherever it is that you decide to go. And a lot of people also, they like a nice loafer to wear for occasions or for dinners, you know, or if you are going out after work, but you don't want to put on heels and stuff. So that was kind of how it came about. And the pointed shoe that I've got, Nicole, that one is funny because I wasn't originally going to do a pointed shoe. And it was just highly requested. Like loads of people said, can you do a pointed shoe? And that's not really my sense of style, but I listen to others and it's been a favorite, which has been great. So, so that's kind of how it works for us. I mean, the new one that we've got that's coming out now, which is available for pre-order, but it's not arriving until December, is a boot, and that's a Chelsea boot. So I've actually got it here. This is the boot here, and with this one, obviously I researched the sort of the heel height and stuff like that because I didn't want it to be too flat. Obviously, we're in England. The weather's not great. So with that one, again, I just looked at what was already available for other people and wasn't so available for us. And I added just a small little difference of having the gold at the back because I just thought it just added a little bit of a difference to the boot. So it's all based on what's currently out there and where I can pull things at the moment. My aim generally is to provide like classic led pieces, so ones that will go with everything. It won't die out and you just throw them away and stuff like that. You're going to have them for a long period of time. And with that, I wanted to be able to provide something for everybody for different occasions. So I think that's the kind of goal as we grow, to provide things that people can pick up and be like, yep, I can wear that to work or I can wear that to here and whatever. But also to be able to make sure that they're classic led, so that even if I do come out with something a bit fun every now and again, at least you have something that's going to withstand the test of time, really.
Yeah.
In this world of fast fashion.
Yes. Well, yeah. I'm one of those that I believe in not owning too many pairs of shoes, but making sure that every pair I own is going to last me and is going to do me well. Mm-hmm. Coming off that, and I have no idea what the answer to this question is going to be, so I'm excited to ask you.
I hope I do.
I'm sure you will. Is there actually any differences to designing quote-unquote straight size shoes as opposed to larger size shoes? Are there different factors that you have to factor in, or is it literally, here's a shoe, make it bigger?
So there's loads. Yeah, there's so much mechanics to it. It's actually crazy even for me when I'm learning. When I'm speaking to my manufacturers and they're like, yeah, but we have to do this to account for that. And I'm like, wow, really? So I'm constantly learning. I mean, one of the things in particular is the molds that you use to create shoes are called lasts. And those lasts offer each size. Now, because we do sizes that are larger than the normal woman's, quote, normal woman's foot, we have to have those lasts created. So if, for example, even for this boot that I just showed for Serena, if a manufacturer already had a last to make a Chelsea boot on, the highest number they would normally go up to is a size 7 or 8, depending on the European conversion. And we would then say, well, we want a last that's above that, you know, I need sizes 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then they would have to create that. So then they would not just extend it, they then have to make sure that the width is appropriate and that the...
It's a lot!
You have to make sure that the width is appropriate and that the instep is appropriate, like in the measurement for that is right for the shoe. And then that is for every single different shoe. So when it comes to that, you have to go through that process. If you change your toe shape, you have to do that again for a new development. If you decide you want to do boots and it has a zip, you have to change the development. There's so many that goes on, rather than if we did do standard width shoes or standard sizes, should we say, a lot of those manufacturers will already have that, which will mean that you don't have to do those upfront development costs because they already have it in stock. So there are a few things that that you have to really account for. Even when you do a heel design, the mechanism that they use to support your foot, that has to be appropriate for the size that you're working at. And then you have to source those because they might not be readily available in certain suppliers. So those manufacturers will have to speak to them and say, do you do this and whatnot? The heel height that you use, the heel has to be appropriate for the size. So there's a lot of things that are really geared up and catered for the normal shoe sizes. But when it comes to the extended range, there's a lot more seeing if it's possible type conversations that you have to have, because when you see if something's possible, it also means, can you afford to develop this with your small brand? And sometimes it's going to be a no. You can't afford to do that right now. That might be something that comes later, or a design that you might decide to put on the back burner for later. But there's a lot. There's a lot.
Wow. Yeah, that does in fact sound like a lot, and also totally unfair if you're not catering for, again, the quote-unquote normal person. You have to spend so much extra money, so much extra time that you might not have available to you, and then how are you actually going to end up creating the brand that might then make change, and yada yada yada. Which comes to a great question to sort of round us out a little bit. What do you think that the industry can do? And when I say the industry, I mean the top players, the people at the top that, have the most influence. What can they be doing to create actual change in creating size inclusivity, both in the way that we think about size inclusivity, but also from size inclusivity in shoes?
This might sound so I don't even know the proper words to describe it, but the first thing they need to do is care. That's what I think. That might sound really cheesy. That's the word, cheesy. They actually have to care. I mean, there's a lot of retailers out there. They're really one of the big players comes to my mind, and they have really lovely shoes, and a lot of people wear them. But every single person that wears them says they're uncomfortable. That the heels that they want so badly that is showing everywhere are not comfortable. They're not made for feet. So a lot of them say. Obviously, I've never been able to try them, so I wouldn't know. When it comes to women and their shoe sizes, I mean, I don't know whether it's the same for men, but shoe sizes can change so rapidly for a number of different factors for women. You can have a child and then your foot's bigger or it's wider and it doesn't go back to how it was before, There's so many things that can impact you. And the first thing they have to do is be wanting to care about that and to speak to their customers.
Thank you so much for that. So to round out, before you go on your merry way, where can we find your shoes, plug your upcoming collection, your pre-order, all of that, sell yourself?
So just to round out, Mokkah is a premium footwear brand for women who wear larger size shoes. So that's a UK 8 to 12, but we do ship worldwide. So definitely check us out at www.mokkahshoes.co.uk. And also we're at Mokkah Shoes on all social media platforms. As you did mention, the pre-order, and I did have a slightly little plug during the interview. This is the new shoe that's coming. That's Serena. This is one of the larger sizes, so that we've got. She's available for pre-order now on the website. And do check us out. We're building slowly, but the brand vision is so big, and we can only do it as we connect with more and more women that need us.
You've got a very bright future ahead of yourself. Honestly, I'm very excited to see your little brand grow. Thank you so much for listening to the Beyond the Scenes podcast. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to keep up to date with more from Eternal Goddess and from the podcast, please make sure you're following us on social media.